Ah.
Thunder.
Okay, I don't know how good that sounded, because you did slightly cut out on me.
It's
So,
alright.
audiences, I do have to apologize if that sounded bad, but I'm actually not that sorry because that was funny.
It was. Everything we do is funny.
Exactly. Anyway, hi. Welcome to Steph and Anja's Media Review, where we review literally anything.
Yes.
We've done a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows.
We did
Today,
music.
we did do music.
Hmm.
Today, we're doing a real life group, organization, whatever you want to call it. Take it away, Anja.
Okay, so today we're doing the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, and we're not doing a show, one of their many
Mhm.
shows. We're not doing like the team, the Dallas Cowboys. We're actually doing the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders group, like the actual cheerleaders, and what
Yes,
marketing they've done in their lifetime, I guess, to go from, I guess, nothing to something.
indeed.
Yes. So,
And I was going to say, you may be aware of them from the Netflix special, which I think I'd seen on Netflix as I was scrolling through. I've not yet watched it, but yeah, I've seen people talk about it. Anja, obviously, this is your episode.
yeah.
Tell us about like your experience. Was it the Netflix show that kind of drew you in, or did you have knowledge about it beforehand? What's your experience?
Okay, so prior to watching the Netflix documentary, actually, I'll start with the Netflix documentary. I watched it the other day, like a week ago, and I loved it, right? But it brought back some memories. And I was like, I feel like I know about these cheerleaders. Like, I feel like I've seen them before. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I have. I don't know whether it was on TikTok in 2020 or maybe I watched them on YouTube. I definitely didn't watch their reality show because I
Yeah.
was way too young and didn't have access. But it was either on YouTube or TikTok. I must have seen videos from the
Yeah.
reality show because I felt like I had seen these faces before, well, some of these faces, seen the costumes, and been like, I feel like I know them. So that's kind of like my background with them is like, I'm pretty sure I've seen compilations of them prior.
Yeah, fair. I did not have any of that experience. I think, I mean, I feel like I've seen them before as well, but I couldn't place them.
Yeah.
But the name was really familiar to me, and like even just like the general like costuming and general media presence was really familiar to me, which makes me think that I have at least seen or heard something related to them prior to doing research on this episode.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, maybe we should ask the question, what is and who are the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders? Who are they? What do they do? Well, they're cheerleaders. Well, I wouldn't call them cheerleaders. They're not the stunty cheerleaders, they're the dancing cheerleaders. They are known as America's Sweethearts, which is also, funnily enough, the name of the Netflix documentary. They are an NFL cheerleading squad for the Dallas Cowboys team, which is a team in Texas. I don't know much about NFL, so I can't say more, but the team is from Dallas, which is in the name, so I guess that makes sense. So, let's talk about the cheer team. So,
Mhm.
a little breakdown of what that kind of looks like. They have this lady named Kelly Finglass. She's the director of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, and she used to actually be a cheerleader too. And then I guess after her run of being a cheerleader, they asked her to come back and work with the team. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Little bit of
Seems like sorry, I was going to say, it seems like that's maybe something that happens a lot, based on what I saw, where it's like maybe you age out of it, maybe you just don't get in. Obviously, we're about to go into like the length that you go to in the audition process and what you need to
yeah,
kind of do. But it sounds like if you don't get to go through that audition process, sometimes they might offer you like a more senior position as well. So just something to keep
yeah.
in mind.
It looks like they like to keep like the alumni
Mm,
returning, at least having some kind of contribution to the organization, which I think is really cool.
yes.
Then there's also this lady named Judy Trammell. Sorry, not Tramwell. I don't know why I added a W. There's no W there. But she's the choreographer of the DCC. She was also a cheerleader. And I actually saw on TikTok earlier today, this wasn't even part of my research, but I saw it. Her daughter does competitive cheerleading.
Oh,
So, like, full circle moment. I love it.
yeah.
And then within the team, they kind of like separate their, I guess, their dancers as follows. They have their first group leaders, because there's 4 groups that they split their team up into for game days. So they have their group leaders, they have their second group leaders, which is just like, I guess, backups of their selected group leaders of the dancers. And then their veterans and their rookies. So veterans are people who have already been in the team previous year or previous years. And rookies are the newbies. They're greenies.
Yeah.
They've not
Love it.
been in the team before. So that kind of sums up the, I guess, the hierarchy of the DCC. And then after all of those, you've got the alumni, which
Yes.
I love this, right? And I'm going to say it now. One game a year, they invite a bunch of the alumni back to perform. And they do like part of the routine on the field with the current dancers, which I think is really cool. And they get people from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, now even 2020s. Crazy.
People of all ages, all walks of life coming back and being alumni for this one group of cheerleaders.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And talking about like the history going back, right? Prior to the cheerleaders being like, I guess, put into like being a thing, I guess, was they actually used cheer teams from a high school, a cheer team from a high school, and that was like their entertainment, I guess. And then there was a point in the, I think it was like early 70s, where some director guy of the Cowboys, I wrote it down. Here it is. Tex. Oh, I'm not gonna be able to say this last name.
His name was Tex.
His name was Tex. He was the Cowboys general manager, and he saw a woman, and I'm calling her a woman. There's other derogatory names people called her, but she was holding fairy floss in both hands, and she was wearing like very revealing clothing, and that gave him the idea of cheerleaders. Which, fair enough. But yeah, that I think is really cool. That, you know, they had high school cheerleaders, and it kind of like transitioned into like this full thing where like they got these ladies, and I think it was in their 3rd year of like these instated cheerleaders where they got their iconic costumes, where they've got like the blue blouse with the white vest, white shorts, white boots. And it kind of went through some variations, I noticed, because I clicked through. They have history photos on their website, and I clicked through their website looking at history photos, and it was actually really cool. So they had the white shorts with the white belts. They phased out the white belt for a solid 15 years, right? And then they phased the white belt back in. And I'm like, damn.
They said, we missed the white belt, actually.
Yeah, because like the shorts, when there wasn't the white belt, it had this weird like U at the front, like it would.
Oh yeah.
It was like shaped like this, like the band, I guess. It looked good on them, but like the belt's more iconic. But
yeah.
So maybe we should transition to what do the DCC do? Like, what do they actually do? So
yeah,
they're cheerleaders. They dance at the NFL games. They have an iconic Thunderstruck intro, which is I guess like an energy rise,
like
pump
a
up.
warm up.
Yeah, like a pump up to the game. Like it gets you excited. I don't really have anything to relate it to, I guess. A good example, like, it's very niche, but a good example is like if you go to the Aussie rules football, which is our kind of footy, if you go, like when I go to my home games, which is Essendon, they have like a 60-second countdown video that plays before the bounce. And I'm pretty sure other clubs also have a countdown before the bounce. So it's like that kind of thing to pump you up right before it starts.
Yeah, so, like building that kind of adrenaline, getting everyone excited, you know. And I think in this case, it's kind of like the whole point is, even if you don't go for the Dallas Cowboys, it's still, the purpose is still to pump you up,
Yeah,
even if it's to root for the other team.
exactly. It's very exciting and very, very, very cool. But they also do some other pretty cool things that I thought we should talk about. So
Absolutely.
they have this program called Junior DCC, which is they provide dance classes for young girls 5 to 12. There's no auditions. It's weekly classes, and they get to participate in events that are related and like affiliated with the Cowboys team on
Mhm.
game days, Christmas extravaganza, which is like apparently this really big event for the Cowboys. They go to nursing homes and local charity events, and they get to perform as part of the organization, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
They also, now this is like for more related to the actual cheerleaders, audition prep classes. So I'll get into
Yes.
the audition process after this, but they hold audition prep classes, so all the women wanting to be part of the group actually have a chance to learn the techniques, learn the style, learn all these things taught by current choreographers and former DCC cheerleaders to help them
Mm.
prep for auditions. And I thought that was really cool because I don't know, I don't think there's that many jobs that just like will hand out all this information to you to prep you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you go
I
to a
think
job interview, it's not the same, right?
I was going to say, yeah, even within, I think, the performing arts community, it's like you might go to an audition and they'll kind of say, like, oh, this is kind of what we're expecting, but they won't actually like say, this is exactly what you need to do to get here.
Yeah.
Um, Even with like dance auditions for like, I mean, my point of reference is musicals, right? So it's a bit different, but I think ultimately it's like they'll show you the dance, and the whole point is like, how well can you replicate it? And kind of what are you bringing to the table? In this case, it's like, would you bring like a certain character to the table when you're doing the dance? That kind of thing for musicals. Whereas obviously for this, it's like, how well do you represent the Dallas Cowboys? Would you be a good fit for this club?
Mm. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. And then on top of
Yeah.
the audition prep classes, they also have the DCC Prep Intensive, which is like a super focused weekend where they go through like stretching, mobility, flexibility, kick technique, field presence. They give a DCC Q&A, and they teach stylized choreo that matches like I guess the vibe of
Mm.
DCC. So
Yeah.
I think it's really cool they provide all that kind of information to people willing, like wanting to join, because
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, I just think it's really cool because I can't think of
Yeah.
many other, I guess, disciplines that do that.
No, exactly. I think, yeah, I think it's pretty specific. At least my understanding is it's specific to them as well. Like, I think they're always going to have people wanting to audition, people lining up to audition, wanting to get in and be part of something this big.
Mm,
So I think it's something they've kind of realized they don't have to worry about people, spreading it around, or the fact that like maybe there's something bigger or better to come along. Because I think ultimately at the end of the day, they're again always going to have people wanting to be a part of it.
exactly. So some other things that they do on top of all that already, they do nursing home visits. They have a New Year's Eve event with the Dallas Cowboys. They have a Christmas extravaganza with the Cowboys. They do signings. They do any other requested appearances that just people request and they'll go. They also do USO tours, which I had to look up what that meant because I don't know what that meant. But it's going to entertain the troops overseas, which
Mm,
that
mm.
is really cool. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, salute to those women. Jeez, they do so much.
they do so much. Yeah.
So yeah, I think now is a good time to go into the audition process. Kind of
Yes.
what we're going to talk about is the stuff that we see, because there's probably
Mhm.
lots of stuff we don't see. So, and I also
Yeah.
the comparisons I kind of want to talk about between what we see in the documentary and what we see in the reality show, because I
Mhm.
did notice some differences in just watching compilations and watching the documentary. So,
Yeah.
starting out with the most recent, which is the documentary, the audition process, they auditioned online, then they would make like cut down the finalists and bring I think like 70 women in to do an
Mhm.
in-person audition where they perform their solos. And then after everyone's performed their solos, they do a field audition where they perform part of the routine that they're meant to practice, and then they kind of from there choose their squad, which is not their full squad. They do a training camp. So it's like they need 36 in the team, so say they pick 45 women to go to training camp. And then
Yeah.
during training camp, which I don't remember how long it was, maybe let's say 6 weeks, they cut women. Like if there's an injury, you're cut. If you struggle to get the choreography, you're cut. If you don't look
Yeah.
good in the uniform, you're cut. Like it's pretty brutal. Like it's
It is.
brutal.
Yeah.
But they get down to that 36, and that's kind of the process that we saw in the documentary, which I thought makes sense.
Yeah.
In the documentary, there was two girls cut. I'm pretty sure the day before their first game performance, and that was brutal. I did shed a tear.
Yeah.
But let's compare that to the reality series. Now, again, I haven't watched the reality series like through. There is too many seasons. It went from 2006 to 2021. That's a long time, okay?
That's crazy.
And I don't have the time to sit here and watch 15 seasons of a show. But
Yeah.
from what I have seen and the audition process I have seen, because I did watch compilations of the auditions, it was different because it was a different time. Definitely in 2006. I'm the way we are online now completely different to the way back then that we were online. So there
Mm.
was a lot more in-person auditions. They'd actually audition and have 4 or 5 people dancing at once on the stage, and they'll see who their eyes kind of draw to, and that's how they kind of start cutting down girls. I think they did do solo performances, but they had to do group performances first, but not dancing as a group, but dancing next to each other, which I
Yes.
thought was really different. And then going into like a solo audition and moving, I think, through a similar process of field auditions and stuff, but then going through their training camp, there was a lot more intensity, I guess. There was like practice interviews, practice on camera appearances, and they had so much more stuff to go through to weed people out that we just, I guess, either didn't see or they don't do anymore, which I thought was
Mm.
quite
Mm.
interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was cool to see like the differences on how
Yeah.
their process has changed a bit. What do you think
Yeah,
about it,
totally.
Steph?
I was going to say, I think like the very early stages of the reality show sound a lot more in line with your typical dance audition. And I
Mm.
think you're right in that it comes down to the evolution of the online space. I think back then they were trying to make people obviously reality stars in
Mhm.
like, their own kind of way. Whereas I think now with the internet being what it is, it's kind of like almost an accepted fact that anyone who blows up has the capacity to be an influencer or be an online star.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe too that their priorities have shifted into okay, anyone can do this. We need to prioritize kind of how this works here and now versus what we were doing before, potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but um, yeah, based on, again, both the reality show and the documentary, like that seems pretty likely, at least in my mind.
Yeah. No, it definitely tracks. Like it makes sense for it to seem that way. So yeah, I agree.
Love
Now
it.
I have a few facts.
Mhm.
So I kind of already mentioned them. So I'm only gonna say 2 facts of my many because I already
Okay. Yeah.
said a lot of them. So the longest veterans. Steph, do you want to take a guess of how many years longest veterans were a part of the DCC?
As like official performers.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. Tell me higher or lower. 10 years.
Lower.
5 years.
Higher.
7 years.
Higher.
8.
Yes. So 8 years seems to be like a very, very long time to be a performer on the DCC. I
Yeah.
kind of got the idea that around 3 to 4 years was the average for women in the team. There was this lady named Kelsey who was in her 5th year of the DCC in the documentary, and that was her final year. So
Yes.
it kind of seems like that's the time range, unless you're cut early or you just don't feel like it's the thing for you. That kind of seems to be the how many years a person is part of the
Yeah.
team.
Gotcha.
But in the 70s, there were two sisters, Fonseal and Vanessa Bake. I might have not written Baker, I'm pretty sure. They were part of the team for 8 years. That is
Jesus.
so long.
That's so long.
That is so long. And the other thing I wanted to mention was
Mm.
because of the documentary, and this is kind of now leading into our marketing, or kind of
Yeah.
not marketing, but response of the documentary, which in turn brings more awareness to the cheerleaders, which is
Yes.
marketing in and of itself. But
Exactly.
the pay. I don't know, Steph, if you've seen anything about the pay of these cheerleaders on your social media lately, but
No, I don't think so.
it's pretty intense. So
Yeah.
the documentary revealed there was an ex cheerleader that was interviewed. She finished up in 2022, and she kind of said, "I'm paid like a minimum wage fast food worker." So like in American money, that's like 23,000 or something a year.
Yeah.
Not much for all they put
Yeah.
in. And so like the questions started arising about pay. And in the documentary, the CEO's daughter of the Cowboys, she plays a big role in part of the cheerleaders. I don't remember her name. It
Mm.
might be Charlotte. She seemed to be there only because her dad's the CEO.
Yeah.
My
Trust.
personal opinion, but anyways,
Ooh.
she seemed to say that it like the DCC is like the most elite you can get in dancing, and
Mm.
that the women aren't there to be paid; they're there for the sisterhood and the experience.
Ew.
Yeah,
Boo.
and to hear another woman say something like that,
Yeah.
because you got to think about all the things that these women have to do to upkeep to stay in the team. They have to keep their hair done, their makeup done, their nails done, their figures in shape, take
Yeah.
dance classes to make sure that their technique is good, on top of going to their trainings 3 nights a week that always end past midnight, going to game days, going to functions, performing, and I just it scratched the wrong nerve for me.
Yeah. I was going to say, unfortunately, that is kind of the case in a lot of performing arts. Not even just like performing arts, like performers in general. People take the arts for granted
Mm,
and don't seem to think that people should be paid for the time and effort that they have to put in, as you kind of just described. Like, they have to do so much. And the fact that they're making like the same as a minimum wage fast food worker is so disappointing to hear, especially when you think about like how much the players on like the actual Cowboys would be getting comparatively.
yeah.
I know it's a very different type of sport, but obviously the cheerleaders do play a large part in like it as part of the game and part of like how it works, how matches work. So
Mm-hmm.
compensate them.
Compensate
Thank
that,
you.
yeah. It just
Thank you for coming to my TED talk.
wait. But yeah, no, it definitely just irks me. It's just something
Yeah.
you never want to hear. But we'll
No.
move past that. We've addressed it. So let's get into the marketing. The more fun stuff, right?
Yay.
So there's the obvious two things we can talk about first. The
Hmm.
docu-series and the reality show. Two TV formatted stuff that we can see. So The Netflix docu-series was 7 episodes. It covered things like auditions, training camps, cuts, making the team, game day, makeovers, fan interactions, facing challenges like sexual violence, so it actually got quite deep, abuse, struggles, grief, the pay, relationships, and pressure. So, like, it covered a lot. And it was really insightful. It really showed, I guess, another angle to the DCC no one would have seen before. I do want to note that Kelly and Charlotte, so Kelly, the director, and Charlotte, the CEO's daughter, are not producers on this show, which is interesting seeing as they were producers on the reality show.
Yeah.
On the reality show, there was a lot more drama. A lot of this stuff that, like, things were brought up, like the abuse and stuff and sexual violence was not addressed in the reality show, which I guess tracks for a reality show, but for them covering up the way they treat the girls in that show, were they trying to hide stuff? That's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah. I think also something to keep in mind as well is ultimately the docuseries was there to drive awareness of the cheerleaders as a multifaceted group, let's say, not just as like, oh, you know, these are just some cheerful young girls and they're going to audition and oh, there's drama, like that's crazy. Like these are real people who live real lives and have real experiences. And I think at the end of the day, the docuseries was trying to draw attention to that, where obviously the reality series was more about entertainment for the general audience, I would think.
And it was more niche too. The reality show is more like, oh, people who like dancing and who are interested in reality shows. Like there's not much. There's not much to relate to people, but the docuseries, that's more for an even wider audience because everyone's kind of like, oh, the deepness, the background. Everyone's like, oh, let's find out. So
people are nosy and they, you know what? People just want to know things and want to know what's happening behind the scenes.
That's true.
So, yeah.
I love that. I love that. But let's move on. So some other kind of marketing things they do release photos from game day. They do that on Instagram, on their website, Twitter. I saw in the documentary that Kelly takes a lot of photos on her phone and posts them. So they get up on their socials, which I love. We love socials.
Love to see it.
Interestingly, they do swimsuit calendars and cheerleader calendars.
Okay. So interesting.
I think it's like a fireman calendar, but not as cool. But, you know, still ways they market, still ways they make money.
Exactly.
In 2020, I'm pretty sure it was, I saw on their website they had, I'm not sure if it was a podcast or a video because the website the website tab was still there and you could click into it, but you can't actually play the video of this anymore. But it seems like they had a podcast, Kelly, Judy, and this woman named Haley, had a podcast named Just for Kicks. But it might have been a video series and not a podcast. I'm not 100% sure because it didn't say and there was no access to the videos. But from the looks of it, it looks like they had that and it looks like they were diving into just DCC and the behind the scenes kind of stuff, which I thought was cool. Then, DCC also had Barbie dolls, which
I love it.
I love that. They were out in 2008, and their tagline was, "They are often imitated, they are never equaled," which is something they actually also, like, resound in the documentary as well. Which is really cool. They, like, stand by that statement. I'm like, fair enough. Good for
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. They also, I think it was in 2019, released their YouTube channel, and they started releasing compilations of the reality show and, you know, kind of like not copying, but same as like Gordon Ramsay with Kitchen Nightmares. The Bar Rescue Show. I'm trying to think of other ones. Ink Masters.
Yeah, like it is something that like a lot of drama or like, I guess, like other reality shows seem to do a lot of is just cycling through a series of clips. I think something to keep in mind too is obviously this one's been running for like it was running since 2006, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, by the time 2019 rolls around, that's like a whole new generation of people that they can get access to, that they can get people to watch, to engage with content, to support via YouTube rather than via reality TV. Again, it's like the evolution of the internet is such a key player here.
Oh, it is, and it's I love, I don't know, I just love seeing like it adapting. I think it's so cool. So on the YouTube channel, they had a Streamy Awards article about it, which we love the Streamy Awards
We
articles.
love it.
They're so in depth. They're so great.
Yeah.
But at the time of writing the article, they had gained 120,000 subscribers, 73 million views. So like they've gotten a lot of traction off this, and I'm sure it's updated by now. But I thought that was really stellar, really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so now some more quirky things I found. These are the last few things to talk about. 2 more things. I found a movie named Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders.
Okay.
It's a 1979 movie, which is interesting, seeing as like the cheerleaders only started not even 8 years before that.
Yeah.
It's a comedy drama TV movie, so it didn't have a cinematic release.
Yeah.
But very interesting. I didn't watch it, didn't have time. I skipped through it, and it's definitely about the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. Like, the iconic uniform is in there.
Yeah.
I was very confused because, like, it looked like the reality show, kind of like the auditions and all this stuff. But I thought
gotcha.
it is scripted. But I just thought that was so strange.
Damn. Maybe they saw the movie and were like, oh, you could make a solid reality show out of this. Like, that was the inspo. I don't know. Like, that's so interesting to me.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool, kind of like a pastime thing. And the last thing I want to talk about is actually a person. One of the cheerleaders back in the 80s, her name was Tammy Barber. The thing about Tammy is that she was very adorable. She was small, blonde, pigtails, very cute.
Trust.
The pom-poms just looked huge in her hands, kind of thing. She actually got a few lines on the show The Love Boat, which
Okay.
kind of a big show, definitely in America, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And she was dressed in her Dallas Cowboys uniform on the show, had lines with the main actors, and then after that appearance, got appearances in other shows in her uniform. And think about not just her success, but the success of the cheerleaders from those appearances. Yeah. I just think that's so cool.
Like, the brand recognition is crazy. Like
that we gotta pay respect where respect is due.
Yeah.
They've if throughout the whole time they've been going, implementing themselves everywhere. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
They've got the 1979 movie. They have the reality show going from the early 2000s to the early 2020s. They've got the docuseries mid-2020s. Okay, so what happened in the 80s? Well, Tammy Barber. What happened in the 90s? I'm sure there's more that I didn't have time to research, but it just seems like once one thing stops, they've got something else already started.
Yeah, like they have their finger on the pulse, like they're ready to go. You know, maybe it's been a bit quiet once in a while. Okay, let's do something else. Let's release a movie or release a show or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it just brings it back to the forefront of not even just general audiences, but I think for a long time, to me it seems at least, that they've been going after their very specific and niche audience of people who enjoy dance, you know, people who enjoy that kind of entertainment and TV movie watching. Yeah. Like, I don't know how else to verbalize it other than it seems very specific who they're wanting to target.
Yeah.
And it's obviously working.
It is. And in the docuseries, they said they were internationally recognized, right? And you know what? They are. They're the only cheerleading of the NFL that I actually know the name of. The only ones I
Yeah.
can even think of when I think of cheerleaders in the NFL, that's who I think of. That's who I've seen
Yeah.
TikToks about. That's who I've seen compilations about. I haven't seen,
Exactly.
and the only now have I seen other NFL teams, probably because my TikTok is covered with the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Exactly. Exactly.
They
The
are.
cycle continues.
I guess their marketing worked.
Yeah, it got you.
Damn, it did. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting overall.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, that kind of wraps up my notes for this episode. And unfortunately, as per our rule, we will not be doing our favourite section of the podcast titled fan fiction because we don't do fan fictions on real people.
No.
But if you want to see something of the fictional verse of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, check out the 1979 movie. It's on
So
YouTube.
true.
It's on YouTube, the full movie. I clicked through it. It's on
That's
YouTube.
that's basically a visual fan fiction. There you go.
Exactly. There you go. You have it. So, Steph, how do you feel about, I guess, the organization of the cheerleaders? How do you feel about their marketing?
I feel like, honestly, coming into this and not really knowing a whole lot about them at all, I feel like I have a much stronger appreciation for them now. Because, again, as we kind of talked, like the docu-series kind of humanizing them in a way and making it really clear, like, these are real people with real struggles. I think it's ultimately, the goal is ultimately always to get the audience to empathize, and I'm empathizing. But I do respect them a lot. It sounds like such a process to get to the point of actually performing. And I respect anyone who tries and doesn't necessarily get in, and I respect anyone who tries and does get in.
Very fair.
How about yourself?
I definitely found it really interesting to like research this episode. I think seeing the steps they've taken to get to where they are today is really, really cool. Obviously, money helps. They've got $1 billion organization with the Cowboys, but
Yes.
it's just really cool to see like a team that just continues to pump stuff out, continues to grow, to push to grow. I think it's just really cool. And I think if anyone wants to learn more, definitely watch the docu-series. It was
Yes.
really interesting. I want to rewatch it. I don't have time to rewatch it. But yeah, I guess that's my overall thoughts.
Yeah, I love it.
So, since that's it, if you could give us a like and a comment or a rating and a Q&A, that would be amazing. Thank you guys for watching. We have a TikTok and an Instagram, Steph and Anja's Me Review, all one word. And yeah.
And cool. If there's nothing else, outro.